What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue here with our 2023 predictions. The Duke Blue Devils are up next. Of course, the surprise team from last year. I'll give you my thoughts on them in just a second, then we'll go through the schedule. But let's look at some of the other predictions. The FBI has them at 5.4 and 6.6, so they do have them, right there on the border of possibly making a bowl game. Again, this team was 9-4 last year. It was a good team. I mean, you look back to last year, they didn't get blown out by anyone. They were in every game they played. I would have to go back and look this up, but I think every game that they lost was a one-possession game, or maybe all but one. But this was a good team last year. Again, I'll give you my thoughts in just a second. Athlon has them at 8-4. The over/under for this team is at 6.5. The schedule's pretty tough, though. We'll get into that as well. But yeah, so over/under at 6.5. These numbers really all over the place. The reason why the FPI is so low is because they look at the last 3 years, and they also look at recruiting. This team doesn't recruit at a high level, and before last year they were pretty bad. So that's what it's very understandable with the formula that the FPI uses why that number is that low. Again, Athlon's really high on them. 8-4 seems kind of high if you look at the schedule. I think this team, again, could be a top 25 team this year, but again, that schedule is really tough. And that over/under is at 6.5, meaning 6 or 7 wins the most likely scenario. So you're looking at predictions anywhere from 5 and 7 up to 8 and 4. Usually these numbers all kind of line up a lot closer than that. But this is a team that I like. And I think obviously they're well coached. They're not going to have the talent of a Clemson or a Florida State, but they're well coached, and they proved last year that they can compete pretty much with anyone. Riley Leonard back at quarterback. He's big time. He played really well for them last year. Big time quarterback. They've got weapons around him, a good run game, a good offensive line. The defense should be solid. I think the defensive line should be strong. The back seven, linebacker secondary, not great, and that's probably, if there's a weakness for this team, that is it. So let's get to the schedule here, and this is probably the most cut and dry schedule or predictions that I've done for any team, because I feel very confident about my record, and I feel very confident about where the wins and losses are going to come. It seems obvious. It's probably not. I'll probably miss some games because that's just the way it goes. But just looking at each game, it's to me, it's clear. They're going to win this game. They're going to lose that game, however it falls. But that starts with Clemson at home Monday night, right after, this is the first weekend of college football. We're talking about Labor Day night. This could be a big game. I think Duke's ready for this game. I think they're going to be fired up. I think there's actually going to be a nice crowd here. It seems like there's, after the successful season they had last year, I think they're going to have some belief that they can possibly upset Clemson in this game. And I'm with them. I think they can. I just look at the overall talent, the athleticism, the size, all these things. Clemson just has such an advantage, and I think they're going to be able to handle that road environment here in the first game. You wonder about new offensive coordinator for Clemson. How will they, how's that going to work the very first game? There are definitely question marks there. And again, I don't think Clemson's a guaranteed to win this game. I think it's going to be a close game and competitive game. But I do think Clemson is just a little too good. I think they'll find a way to get it done. But like I said, I think this is going to be a good game. And our simulation actually picked Duke to win this one. So we'll see if that turns out to be true. The score is really high in that game, so I don't really see that happening. But if Duke wins, I think it's probably a lower scoring defensive type game. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to that game. You got Northwestern here on September the 16th. Again, we talk about it all the time. No idea what to expect from Northwestern. I don't think they're going to turn things around much, if at all, from last year. And Duke was good. This is a Duke team that should roll in this game. I think this is, again, a Duke team that is that good. They can go out and beat teams like this and beat them easily. So I've got Duke at home, getting to 2-1. Then they'll play UConn. UConn was also a surprise team last year. They're going to play them on the road. This is a program that's starting to pick up some momentum. I think this could be a pretty good game. Again, I think Duke is the better team. You're talking about two well-coached teams, two teams that are not going to have a ton of 5 stars out there, maybe no 5 stars. I don't know. So I think it's a good game, competitive game, but Duke is the better team, I feel like. And even on the road, I think they do win this game. So I've got them at 3-1. Then they'll play Notre Dame on September the 30th at home. A big opportunity for a big game. This is the type of game that Notre Dame probably would have lost last year, but I feel like this Notre Dame team is going to be different this year, especially with Sam Hartman at quarterback. They've got a big advantage, again, in overall talent, just like Clemson does. So I do like Notre Dame, but I think Duke can compete. I think it'll be a good game. I think just like last year, I don't see Duke getting blown out by anyone, and I think they will compete all 4 quarters, but Notre Dame a little too good. They get a bye week before playing NC State here on October the 14th, and I actually believe that Duke is the better team here. I said it a minute ago. I feel like these predictions are pretty cut and dry, but NC State, you look at some of the question marks that they have, I think Duke playing at home, it'll be a good game, close game. I don't think Duke's like a lot better, but I do think they're a better team. And again, playing at home, no reason to pick against them. I'm going with the Blue Devils. And then probably the game that has the most likelihood of being a blowout is this game on the road at Florida State. You're talking about a Florida State team that obviously has more talent than Duke, and they can also match them in experience. This is a really experienced veteran Florida State team, plus they're playing at home. So there's a formula there to where maybe this is a blowout and Florida State wins big. And again, I think this is the only game that might be a blowout. I think Duke will compete in every other game. This one, I would be shocked if Florida State lost. I think the Noles roll here, and so Duke drops to 4-3. They play Louisville the next week. This is the game that I probably had the most trouble with, trying to figure out which way to go. I think this Louisville team did a really good job in the transfer portal. A lot of new faces, but just because you have a new coach does not mean you're going to struggle, and it's going to take time. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it's not. And I think they brought in enough guys that can make an immediate impact. Some guys still there from last year. I think this Louisville team's going to be good. And playing at home, I think they barely edge out Duke in a close game. But that's the one. That's the one. If I'm going to miss a game, I think that's probably the most likely game that I miss. That one, or maybe NC State should be flipped the other way. They get Wake Forest on the 2nd. That'll be a weeknight game here, November 2nd. This should be a competitive game, and Wake Forest still going to have a really good offense, but their defense, I think, will struggle. Duke will take advantage of that. They'll be able to run the football, and they will win it by a couple scores. Then they'll play North Carolina on the 11th. I think that the offensive firepower for North Carolina might be a little too much here, plus they're playing at home. I said these games are cut and dry, but I wouldn't be shocked if Duke beat Clemson or Notre Dame or Louisville or even North Carolina, but it just feels like, I didn't have a real hard time making a pick here. I do feel like North Carolina is going to win this game. So that drops Duke to 5-5. They get Virginia after that. Probably the worst team in the ACC. I think Duke is able to take care of business here and get a win fairly easily. Then they get Pittsburgh in the final game at home. Pitt, I think, is going to be not quite as good as they were last year. They'll still be a solid team, very similar to NC State. I'm looking at Pitt and NC State. Those are teams that are good pretty much every year. They're very consistent. I think both of them this year are still going to be solid, but maybe not top 25 good this year. I think Duke potentially is top 25 good. They may not be in the top 25 because, again, the schedule is tough. But, yeah, I think Duke wins this game at home. I think they finish things out with a win. They get to 7-5. If they're going to get to 8-4, I think they could. Again, you'd have to beat Louisville, but you could also lose to Pitt. You could lose to NC State, so 6-6 is a possibility. But I think 7-5 is the most likely record for them. 8-4 probably the next most likely, and then I would drop to 6-6. But getting past 8-4, I think that's going to be really tough with this schedule. So I'd love to get your thoughts on Duke, your predictions. Let me know what you think down in the comments below.